I grew up in Carlow. My father died before I was born. My father died in February and I was born in the August. And my mother had 2 children previous to that, 2 boys, my brothers. And my father died of TB. In them days, there was no cure for it. So I never knew him. And then the thing in Ireland was, if you're a young widow, get married to some man that can look after your children. And I'd say especially men, older men that couldn't get married or nobody wanted them or whatever. That's my opinion on it and what the stories I've been hearing. And my mother remarried and we lived a little bit out in the country. Then we moved into the town. And I'd say when I became about 8, I always knew he didn't like us. And my brothers felt it as well. And we weren't accepted. My mother had to go out and work. She was a very hard worker, on top of having a load of children. And he started sexually abusing me at the age of 8. Yeah, I'd say it was around 8. I'm not 100% sure of the age, but I would think around 8. I know the first time I ever spoke about it, I was 12. And I wouldn't have spoke about it, only a nun. Actually, the strange thing, it was a nun that noticed. She's passed now. And she was a teacher. And she noticed that there was something not right. And she had been watching me for some time. And when I came back to school in 1964, she said, call me to the office. And it all just happened to spill out over nice chocolates. I never seen fancy chocolates like them before. And I just started to talk to her. And I felt I could trust her. And I think in her heart, she meant well. I think it was the priest's decision that when I was being sent to New Ross, home to pack my stuff, the next morning a laundry van came to my school and took me down to New Ross, the Good Shepherd Convent in New Ross. Then I wasn't allowed to go to school. I couldn't understand because the nun had covered my books for me, gave me extra books because we didn't have books. We were so poor. We used to borrow them. And she gave me extra books and my mother bought me a pencil case, which we never had. We used to carry our pencils in a little paper bag. But she bought me that pencil case going away, believing that I was going to be educated. But for years after, I never found out why they'd just straight away taken me to the Magdalene Laundry. Slept in St. Aidan's for some time, then moved over to sleep with the Magdalene women for the rest of the time that I was there. I was only about a month or 2 in St. Aidan's sleeping with the girls. I wasn't allowed to talk to them. They weren't allowed to communicate with me. And when we went over to the Laundries in the morning, they weren't allowed to communicate with me either, the Magdalene women. Well, it was known first, I think, as fallen women. There's even a name on it, mental asylum. Yeah. And it was supposed to be for some women committed crimes. Instead of going to prison, they went in there. If you were after men, if you had a baby, if you were very masculine looking, a lot of the farmers put their daughters in because they were afraid they wouldn't get a man. So we'll put them in to become a nun. You could become a nun if you went in there. There was loads of reasons why, but I never realised till latter years if you were a child and you were sexually abused in Ireland, the perpetrator was covered up for and protected, and the child was sent either to a Magdalene laundry or into a mental home. Ireland was run by the Catholic Church. They had so much power. They owned everything. They run everything. And it was all about money. It wasn't about caring about the people. It was putting the fear of God into you and how they made millions of pounds on innocent children. There'd be a church on it. There'd be a convent. There'd be a school, an industrial school, and a Magdalene laundry. So they had it in every way. The industrial school, the government was paying them for each child. The Magdalene women were being paid for. When I was in New Ross, they had me marked into school in Carlow. It was just a big, long room. One part was the sorting room. It went in kind of an L shape. That was the sorting room where the laundry came in, and there would be piles of sheets. They all had to be washed. Shirts, tablecloths, napkins, handkerchiefs, you name it, that came in there from hotels, hospitals, army, any big institution in Ireland, their laundry came in there. And that would be going non-stop. There was never a break. You know, and then I was put on the calendar. That's a big ironing thing, big round calendar with a load of heat comes out of it. So you feed the sheet, that's what they used to call it. You feed the sheet into it. So they had to make a box for me to stand up on. I had to be measured and the box made so that I could reach up. We got up at 6 a.m. We came down, we cleaned the corridor, or we cleaned windows, or we cleaned doors, whatever had to be done. Some mornings then we'd polish, bring the shine up on the corridors again, and then we'd go to Mass. And after that we'd come and we'd have our breakfast. After that we'd do the day in the laundry. Then you'd stop for your lunch. Then that evening you'd stop around 5, 4, 5, and you'd have your tea. And then we had our wonderful recreation time of making rosary beads and knitting iron sweaters. And do not speak to anybody. You're stop that speaking. Stop. You're not allowed to talk. You couldn't communicate with anybody.
So you couldn't talk to the girls?
No, they were
women.
watching you 24/7. They were watching you all the time. They were in every room. There was a nun to watch you. And if they did get you talking, they'd come up, the big rosary beads wrapped around their waist, and they'd dig you with the big, huge cross, and they'd put their fingers around it. It was like a weapon, and they would dig it into you. So you'd be bruised, and, you know, that into your side, it would lift you up on your toes, like the pain of it. And so we just got used to not talking. And it was always move, or get back to your work. You want to go to the toilet. You have to go up and say, please, can I go to the toilet? And you had to call the mother there. And I wasn't used to mother. It took me a while to get used to it. It was sisters in Carlow, and it took me some time. I'd get a little dig for that every now and then with the cross. It's mother here, dear. I couldn't figure that one out. But that's what they were called. The Good Shepherds was called mother. They were very cruel. They were very unkind to the women. I seen women burn their hands. No compassion. I burnt my fingers one day and I was screaming with the pain, and they told me to go up and run hot cold water on it. So, no, they had no compassion whatsoever. It was all about money. You keep working and earn us money.
What were other people like there? Were there a lot of kids? Were there a lot of just women?
No, there was children over on in the industrial school side. You could hear them playing, and you could hear them, some of them crying. You hear them, you know, when they'd be finished for their break outside in the yard. Very lonely times when you'd hear the children. You'd want to go and play with them. When you were 12 in them days, it was like being 8. You know, you weren't, like there was no television or anything in my day when you were 12 years of age. You were very innocent. Then when the men with the suits would come, that's all I know. They would hide. That's when they hid me in the tunnel. They would grab a hold of me and put me down hiding in the tunnel.
Who were those men?
To this day, I don't know 100% sure. I'd say some of them might have been inspectors. They wouldn't have been there all the time because they wouldn't have went in inspecting the place on the nuns. That's the power that they had. But for anyone that came to visit, I was hidden because I shouldn't have been there. They put me into another laundry after about 2 years in Uras. I was put into another laundry in Athy. And then I was put into the blind school in Dublin, which was denied, and I only got my papers about 4 years ago, that I was in the blind school in Dublin. They always denied it. I didn't realise this. I've only been told this in the last few years. Once you're in more than 2 places, that's trafficking. So they were kind of pushing me on so people wouldn't ask too many questions. But I liked the blind school. It was different. I loved the blind people. I found them fascinating. I found them kind. The nuns there was different. My mother came up to visit me. In all the 3 places she came to visit me, but all the visits were supervised. But in the blind school it wasn't. And the nun didn't come in to have tea. And my poor mother said, oh, we can't pour out the tea till the nun comes. And I'm just going, yes, we can. And I said, she mightn't be coming, which was very unusual. And no nun came to visit the supervisors. And when I went to close the window, it was raining. My mother noticed I was limping. So she said, what's wrong with your foot? And I said, my shoes are too small for me. And she said, well, surely you're getting some money now, you're earning money. I said, I'm not. My mother was a devout Catholic. The nuns couldn't do wrong. If you told her that a priest touched a child, I think she would have killed you.
Hi, and welcome to Deep.
We love making videos, meeting people and letting them tell their stories.
We really hope you're enjoying the channel, and if you are and would like a bit more,
We've just launched the series as a podcast on Spotify.
It's the full interviews uncut, so you can hear the whole thing, wherever you are, at home or on the go.
But no matter where you're watching the content, please remember to like, comment and subscribe, as it really helps the channel.
And don't forget to drop a comment below and tell us who you'd like us to talk to next.
Thank you. Now, back to our story.
Okay, cool.
And I went to a laundry in Carlow to work. Got on great in it because I was able to be better than anybody else there. I knew what I was doing. What we call well trained. And I just couldn't, the memories that was coming back, I couldn't stay there. So we got a little bit of money together and we come over to London. We had to sleep in Argyle Square in King's Cross. I'll never forget it. In the little park there. We stayed there for a few weeks.
So you were homeless, essentially.
And we were homeless. We didn't have money for a room or anything. There was no such thing as a flat in them days. It was a room. And it was a Scottish man that told us in the park. He said, you're too innocent, he said, for here. Go to the Irish Centre in Camden Town. And they got us a room. Got a bit of work in it in Woolworths in Oxford Street. I worked there for a while. Different hotels, any job, that a lot of people wouldn't take, I took, because I couldn't say where I finished my schooling. And I wasn't going to say Magdalene. We were told never say you were here. Then I went home because my health was starting to break down. I wasn't eating properly. Couldn't settle. Ireland wasn't for me in them days. So came back. And I'd say all the time that I was here is about 30 years. Didn't leave the Hollow Road all that much. Didn't venture out, just loved it and got on great with every nationality. And I found it that England, I just loved it. And then my mother asked me to come home. And it was getting a bit rough. And to give my son a chance, I said maybe I'd be better going back to Ireland and to spend time with my mother that I never had. So I went back and that's it. Then all the stories started coming out about the industrial schools and then about the mess. It was coming out so slowly. It was the men that came out first. The men were raped in it, as young boys were raped, beaten, some of them beaten to death. Horrible. The men's stories, actually, I find them a lot worse than the women's stories. Because I never seen anything sexual happen in the laundries. I'm not saying it didn't happen, it's just I never seen it. I never seen women being beaten that badly. But then the story came out about High Park, where they sold it, and the gravedigger came forward in our documentary, Forgotten Maggies, and the nuns told him, there's about 100 and something bodies there. can you just take them to Glasnevin? So he went in and he knocked on the door and he said, I'm sorry, but there's more than 120 bodies there. He said, it must have been about 150. One woman had no skull. A lot of them have got plaster Paris on them. They were taken to Glasnevin after 12 o'clock at night. Cremated. Not one question asked. What happened? Where's the death certificates? How come there's one woman with no skull? That's the power that the Catholic Church had in Ireland. And then there was mass graves. They were all over Ireland. And Frances Finnegan, she was an English woman. She came to live in Ireland. And she told them she'd take them to the European courts if they didn't mark the graves. She's passed now. I met her. Lovely woman, powerful woman. So we have to thank her for the names. At least their names is there. I mean, I meant to take my own life one time with all the memories coming back. And lucky that it was here that it happened, because in them days, it would have been in the early 80s. If you went to do something like that, you get out of hospital, you have to go for counselling. You have to look at why you did it. So that was the first time that I ever spoke about where I was. The lady there, Scottish lady, was very kind, very good to me, and got me back on track again. And I started to live my life differently since I met that woman. It really, really did help me. And feeling safe, because I found it very hard to trust, because I told that nun and I ended up in them horrible institutions. So I found it very, very hard to trust people. And to trust that lady was just, something new in my life. So I just went forward from there. I suppose I was shocked that all this was coming out on the radios and on the television and everything. And there was a programme done in Northern Ireland. And it was all about all the men. And I go, oh my God, it happened to the women as well. We were locked up. So then this guy come along, and this man, and he said, I'm thinking of bringing out about the Magdalene Laundries. And he said, I'm interested in doing a documentary on it. So off we went on the journey. And then people said to me, would you go on the radio? And I just said, don't be ashamed. It doesn't matter what you were there for. And one woman rang me up. She said, she said to the radio station, can I have her number? And she said, I can't, because I had a child. And I said, you gave life. Be proud. I said, you gave life to another human being. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And she said, oh, did you live in England? I said, yeah, I did. Oh, you think different. And I said, well, I hope you can think that little bit different. I said, please come forward and tell your story. And she did. And her life has changed now.
Have you met quite a few of them in this process?
Yes, I have. From Cork. They were all over the place. Dublin, I don't know, I think the last one that closed down is 1996, Sean McDermott Street. That's hard to believe. Now but they're going to make that into a hotel. But the government has decided to let us have it as a museum, and which is wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. And all our stories will go into the museum, and it will be there for years to come when we're past, that people will know what went on, and that hope it'll never happen again. You'll never bring them to justice. They're not even given some money towards the mother and baby home. Our government are so slow at going in and making them people pay. They're worth a fortune. There was a documentary on about the Christian Brothers a few weeks ago, and they owned the half of Ireland, and they're not being made to pay up. Our government is so slow at that. Maybe they have relatives that was in the church or something. The majority of them have. Are you liked in Ireland for speaking out? No, you're not. Some people, yeah. There's a lot of good people, but there's a lot of people that does not like you. I've got it from all different perspectives, you know, people's different points of view. One woman said to me in the shop one day, why don't you leave the past in the past? And I said, no, I disagree with you. Well, you know, don't disagree with me. I have my point of view and it's my point of view that counts. Well, no, sorry. It doesn't. It has to come out what they did and what they got away with.
What do you think keeps you going, and why do you keep talking about it?
Because child abuse should not be accepted. And I'll always stand up against that. Have they got any idea of the pain, of the trauma that they cause in a person's life? You go on, you get up, you live your life to the best you can. But do you get over it? No. You're an innocent child. I'm sorry. And I'll always speak out about that. And it should never happen. Church, I don't care who they are or what uniform they wear. If they're government, I don't care. They should be brought to justice for interfering with little children. They never will, because they don't like this black cloud over them. Now, Enda Kenny, in fairness to him, he gave a great apology. I respect him for that. I think that's how far that it will go. They gave a Shaw McDermott Street. That was a lot of pushing, a lot of fighting for that. I think, have they done enough for us? No, they haven't. The apologies was good. The apology is more important to me than any money that they gave us, because the money they gave us was pittance anyway. And I didn't get paid for the work that I done as a child in Athy. I didn't get paid for the work that I did in the blind school. And I couldn't get my papers off the blind school. And I can see now where we made a mistake. I should not have went in with a group. I should have went out on my own, because I was an abused child. And I'm sure the other girls that was abused and put into these places maybe went on the drink, drugs, died. I think there's only one alive, and I'm hoping to meet her soon. We did put it out there, if anybody was sexually abused in the home, please come forward. And, you know, we'll keep everything private. We done everything we could, but nobody came forward. I'd say they're not alive anymore. I'd say maybe some of them are too ashamed, maybe reconnecting with the family. I know how that's like. Your family is going to, it's their father you're speaking about. I get it, yeah, it's hurting, it's painful. But what about me? And what about all the children out there that this has happened to, and we have to take everybody else into consideration? I think that has to stop. When people heard that I was doing an interview with Oprah, I mean, the power that woman has got, she's lovely. I've always liked her. When I living in London, I used to watch her. They sent an email. Do not interview Maureen Sullivan. She's a liar. But they're strong. It's America you're talking about. I'd say Oprah's used to all that. And they, fair play, they rang, they told us, and the lady that wrote my book, they told us. And I said, no, everything has been proven. If you need anything, you need papers. No, we don't need nothing. We believe you. Well, I said, you're more than welcome. We can email them over to you. You can have anything you want. I do often think about that. Could I have done things differently? But the fear of my stepfather, and I had great love for my granny. I think I was more closer to her, even though I wasn't all that close to my mother. She was too busy working and looking after children. But my granny, I adored her. And I think the threat of that, you will not go out to Bennykerry to see your granny if you say anything. If I'd went out there and told her, would things have been different? I don't know. Maybe it would have been worse. I don't know. But that often goes through my head. Do you ever feel like you had an angel or something, or there was somebody looking after you? There was somebody there to get you through every day. I suppose it'd be the spiritual side of me now, with believing that maybe there is something more powerful there that does take care of some people. And I think that somebody from the other side or something was giving me strength to move on in life. But will I forget? I met very good people in life. I've been very, very lucky. I've met bad ones. I mean, imagine someone sending an email to Oprah. How would you begrudge somebody like me making an interview? That's hard to believe, but unfortunately these people do exist. And more than likely, the woman goes to Mass and everything and is very good Catholic. And that's the sad side of life, but I can't. And my son me and my son are very, very close. And he's very positive. And he always encourages me. I just say, I've done enough. And no, you go for it, Mum. You go, you tell your story. And, if it helps a child, and he would be very, very much against child abuse or anything like that, because I brought him up like that. And I think he gives me great courage.